We are but weeks away from the start of one of my favorite seasons ever. Not summer, not spring, NASCAR season. But we thought we'd throw a little wrench at you this week. Pun fully intended. We have Connecticut racing champion Joey Ternullo. Let me try that again in English, but we're going to keep rolling. With sound, with everything. His name's Corey, my name's Chris, and this is the C&J Speedway Review. Welcome back, Gearheads, to another edition of the C&J Speedway Review, your bi-weekly home for winter racing talk as we move closer to Daytona. And I know for the gentleman across the screen from me, he can't be more excited to do this every single week because it just gets his anger and frustration out. And maybe, just maybe, he'll shave come February 17th. His name is Corey Huffnagel. Corey, how are you doing tonight?
Well, besides the fact that I haven't shaved since November, I've been doing pretty well, and honestly, I'm just waiting for the NASCAR season to start. I'm so ready. I'm excited. I'm ready for the cars to go to Daytona. I'm just ready for the season. And honestly, I think this season is going to be very interesting than what it was last year. And also we'll also figure out what the new aero package is going to do for the Cup Series next year. And I'm honestly going to say this. I think this new aero package that's going to bring it in racing this season, I think it's going to be exciting. But more importantly, I think it's going to be very interesting, not just on the super speedways and whatever, but I think it's going to help mostly on the intermediates and the 2 miles. And then that ought to way, you won't have the leader go out by an 8-second lead and so forth. So none of that's going to happen anymore. But I'm just excited. And after the Super Bowl, the countdown's going to begin.
We'll talk about the Super Bowl at the end. I got a couple things I want to say to you, my friend. Anyway, yes. Please welcome our first ever special guest on the C&J Speedway Review. We always said no guests needed, but this one is special. Across the screen from us, from Middletown, Connecticut, he is Joey Ternullo. Joey, how are you tonight?
Good. I'm thankful you guys have. We're fortunate for you guys to have me on.
Oh, absolutely. We're fortunate to have you.
You're welcome.
Before we get started, just let everybody know a little bit about your racing career up till now.
Yeah. So I grew up in Middletown all my life. Started racing in 2006 at Silver City Quarter Midget Club right here in Meriden, about 15 minutes from Middletown. Raced there until the end of 2009. Had a pretty successful career there. Won the 2009 Most Improved Driver Award out of the whole track, about probably 150, 200 drivers. So that was pretty cool to win that award at 9, 10 years old. And then we moved down to the Waterford Speed Bowl in 2010. Raced Bandoleros there for 2 years. 2010 season, 2011 season. Was able to pick up about a dozen wins between those 2 seasons. And then 2012 to 2017, we moved to the Legend Car division. The Legend Cars were kind of the highlight of my career. I won the 2012 Most Improved Driver Award. Set a couple records there in Legend Cars, youngest driver to win a Legend Car race at the Speed Bowl at 13 years old. And then in 2013, I won the championship, youngest driver to win a championship there in a Legend Car at 14 years old. And then last year, 2 years ago, 2017, went unbeaten on Saturday nights. So we racked up about 22, 23 wins over the course of 7 years. And then moved into the SK division last year. And here we are in 2019, ready to go again.
Now, what are your plans this year? You said you moved to the SK division. Sponsorship, different tracks you're going to run. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think, we're going to get our feet wet a little bit more at Waterford. I bought a new car this year, new SK Modified. It's a Troyer. So different chassis that I'm used to. I ran a CD car last year, so I'll be running the Troyer this year, and it'll be all new to me again. Definitely going to start out at Waterford. We open on May 11th. 11th and 12th is opening weekend. If the car is done in time, and I'd like to get up to Stafford for the Spring Sizzler. Get a little practice in before Waterford and
Mm-hmm.
see where it goes from there. Thompson's always an option. That track has been really cool, and I've been there to watch, the Icebreaker and the World Series for many years, and so we're just going to go from there and see where racing puts us this year.
Well, fantastic. Well, before we get into talking a little bit more about your career, its highlights, and where you want to go from here, Corey, you have any news for us this week?
So the one big news that came out last week, so Spire Motorsports, the new race team that's going to be filling in the Cup Series this year. So they're going to be partnering with Chip Ganassi for the Daytona 500. And who do they have for their driver is none other than Jamie McMurray, who's going to drive the 40 McDonald's Cessna car in the Daytona 500 this year. And not to mention, he's also going to be running in the Advanced Auto Parts Clash, driving the Avett Heath Chevrolet for the Clash coming up in a few weeks. And what's actually kind of interesting was that when I saw that Jamie McMurray was going to run the Daytona 500, I thought to myself, if I'm a betting man, don't count this guy out because he's won at Daytona and Talladega before, and not to mention, he won the Daytona 500 in 2010. So don't expect him to be out in the mix. I mean, I know last year when Danica Patrick went into the Daytona 500, everybody probably expected her, to run well, but yet again, they didn't expect her to win the race at all and so forth. But but I'm glad that McMurray's running Daytona, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in the 40 car. And what's actually interesting was that if he would have drove a throwback of Sterling Marlin's Coors Light car, that would have been awesome. That literally would be awesome.
It would have been full circle. He came up subbing for Sterling Marlin when he was injured in the 40 car.
Yeah.
Why not do a throwback? But I know there's this whole gimmick Schneebitz-Fernum with the alcohol sponsors. They're really trying to family-friendly it up. But some of the best memories any of us have as race fans has beer or liquor or Skol or whatever on the car. Let's not wussify racing too. Having said that, to see Jamie McMurray go out there on February 17th is going to be, for me, a little bittersweet. That was a kid who I thought, 3 races into subbing for Sterling Marlin, he wins. And I thought, he's going to put his footprint on the series as time goes on. Do I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer? No. Do I think he deserves a thought of the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. But like you said, he's won at Daytona. He's won at Talladega. He's always in the mix. If you think back to some Daytonas past in the last 5-6 years, he's always creeping in and around the top 10. For me, it's going to be bittersweet because I know he's kind of phasing himself out of the racing scene.
Yeah.
So tip of the hat to Jamie McMurray. And I'm going to throw it to Joey, see what he thinks about Jamie McMurray's last hurrah.
Yeah, I think I grew up watching Jamie McMurray. I remember the 2010 Daytona 500 pretty well. I believe there were a couple of green-white checkers back then to end that,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken, and I think that was before the overtime line came into effect. So that was kind of true hardcore NASCAR racing back then. Race to the end of the final flag. And I believe he's probably in his early 40s by now, right? I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been on it a while, and just like Corey said, never count him out. The man has won at Talladega before. The man has won at Daytona. He can win in anything you put him in any track. So I think the Daytona 500 is always anyone's game. I remember in 2011, Trevor Bayne won it in his first start.
Mm-hmm.
Wood Brothers.
Yes.
So that was really cool to see, and I believe he still holds the record for the youngest to win the Daytona 500.
I believe so, yeah.
I still think that it still holds true. So it's going to be interesting. February 17th. It's going to come quick, and I'm excited to watch it this year.
Me
now,
too.
let me ask you a question, Joey, and I've said it on the show before. You can take a mediocre driver and put him in great equipment, and he's never going to find victory lane, or she, in the case of Danica Patrick. You can take an awesome driver and put them in subpar equipment, and he'll wheel that thing till it falls apart underneath him and find victory lane. Do you find that to be true?
I do. I do find that to be true. Most of the time there is, very experienced drivers that deserve, top of the line equipment, and that's not how the sport is always made out to be. It's different. Now years ago it used to be, the best driver would get the best equipment. I would think, in my opinion. This year there's just a lot more political stuff going on. With fun not being there and stuff like that. So I think that a mediocre driver, from my perspective, can get in something that is not halfway decent, but can run up front and still get the job done.
Absolutely, and I'll
Mm.
point out guys like Bubba Wallace, who was in petty equipment, and all he had was that second place finish in Daytona. We
Right.
thought all year, and Corey and I both were like, when's your time, Bubba? When is your time? It just never came around. But you look at a kid like Chase Elliott, he's got the bloodline, being the son of Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, comes out, wins 3 races, has himself a pretty decent playoff run, not the best,
Yep.
but he proved himself. But I don't think Hendrick still is Hendrick in all capital letters like it was years ago. Those guys from Hendrick that found victory lane did it with their talent, not the equipment.
Yeah. Hendrick. I agree with you 100%, Chris. Hendrick is not Hendrick anymore. I don't think. When as soon as Jeff Gordon retired and Dale Earnhardt, that was a stacked field. Jimmy Johnson hasn't had his way in years. He won 5 championships in a row, 2006 to 2010, and then he did sneak one in there in 2013, which is cool. And I believe he won the Daytona 500 that year as well.
Yes.
So that was probably, in my opinion, his last pretty fully stacked season. He's always been there. He had some experience, but I just think Hendrick isn't Hendrick anymore, and you're going to see these Toyotas and these newcomers come up to par a lot more this year.
Agreed, 1000%. I did bring a piece of news to the table. I know this is a NASCAR show, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the news I heard today was Courtney Force, daughter of John Force, is leaving racing
Yeah.
to spend more time with her husband, her family, etc., so forth. You don't have to be a huge race fan to know the name John Force. You
Right.
know the name, you know the legacy, and then to watch his daughters, 3 of them, come up and become winning race car drivers, and I believe Courtney won a championship. Corey, am I wrong?
Well, I don't usually watch a lot of drag racing, but I'm assuming yes.
I know they did that show with them for a couple seasons. I watched it. Wasn't just for, the fact that I loved watching John Force as a kid. It wasn't just for the fact that, let's be honest, those girls are eye candy. But that was what hooked me. What got me was these girls are talented, and they were going out there and they were whooping the tails off of guys that have been on that circuit 5, 10, 15 years in their rookie seasons. It's definitely going to be a different sport without Courtney Force. I'm sure the next big thing is coming up. She's the youngest of the girls. I know that Ashley and Brittany are still going to run the drag racing series. And I think John is going to drive until his mustache falls off and he dies in the car. That's John Force.
Mm.
So, definitely going to be a different sport without them. And Corey, I know you said you didn't watch a lot of drag racing coming up. Joey, were you a fan of John Force or the drag racing circuit?
I don't really watch too much drag racing. My dad is big into drag racing. He always tunes in when it's on, and I know John Force pretty well of him watching, him over the years, and he's just one of those guys that never gives up, and you could tune in 5, 10 years from now, and you would still be hearing things about him. I would think.
He'll probably be 87 at that point, but
Yeah.
that's the mark of someone who just loves what they do. I
Yep.
don't think he's been a champion in several years, but he still goes out there. He still wins. It's just passion. It's like watching. If I'm sure you've gone up to New Hampshire more than
Yep.
your fair share. It's where Corey and I met and built this show. Watching
Yeah.
Morgan Shepherd roll out every single year and put on his best effort, whether or not it does well, it is what it is. But Morgan Shepherd, John Force, who else drove until they were nearly dead? Dave Marcus. Same.
Yeah.
All right, so Corey, do you have any questions for young Joey? By the way, Joey, if you did not know it, is a mere 19 years old.
Mm.
Now,
20.
Joey, I don't. What? I'm sorry.
20.
Yeah.
When was your birthday?
I turned 20 in November.
Oh, I missed that. I was reading an article from October about you, which is where I got. You still can't buy beer, so
No,
it's all
no,
good.
I'm still a kid. We'll go with that.
But doesn't mean that your friend Chris can't pass you a little something, something at a race sometime.
Yeah, that's right.
Just don't let Mama T know, because now she's watching.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. I'm a bad influence on all you characters. Joey, 19 years old. Some of those, accolades that you were running down earlier when we were learning who you were like 7, 8 years old when that happened. 13 years old.
Yeah.
Was this something that way early on? You're 4 or 5 years old. You're getting out there. You're riding a big wheel. Maybe you're tootling around in a go-kart. Where was the passion born?
Yeah, I think you just explained it. Driving around in the yard and with go karts and stuff like that. Me and my dad were. It's a fun story to tell. But me and my dad owns a tile business in Middletown Tile and Granite, and we were in Meriden, and we stopped by Silver City, and I believe it was during a rain delay. Hard to remember being a second grader back then. And we went around the track and stuff like that, and looked at some cars, and then me and my dad talked about it, and that following winter, I bought my first quarter midget off of Anthony Flannery, who lives in East Hampton and still runs down at the Bowl in the late model division.
Now, when you think of what you just said, quarter midgets and whatnot, this is not unlike how Jeff Gordon and Joey Logano came up through the ranks. You being from Middletown, Connecticut, obviously the shadow of Joey Logano, especially after this November, has to loom huge. Do you find it more of a challenge or more of a detriment that that shadow exists?
I think it's more of a challenge. Joey's his own person. I'm my own person. I think. We both come from pretty different backgrounds. But he started out in quarter midgets as well. Raced Bandoleros, raced legend cars. Didn't do much with modifieds, I don't believe. Went to the K&N series, which was called the Bush North back then, and I remember in 2007 or 2008, they ran up at Stafford Springs, and I remember pretty fondly going into the autograph session line and getting my autograph from him and telling him my race at Silver City, and he was 17, 18 years old back then, so he was younger than I am now. So remembering that growing up as a kid and taking it for what it's worth now means a lot to me.
Absolutely. Corey, what do you got for a young Joey right now?
So, all right. So here's my little question for you. So, like, when you were racing when you were a kid back then, at one point, like, did you say like, all right, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to do in the near future?
I think it has to do with the typical story of when everyone knows it's their future. I think it was when I first pulled into Victory Lane for the first time and crossed that finish line first and went around again and got to do my victory lap with the checkered flag on my window as a 6-year-old. I think that was the coolest thing of all. And I actually have that picture hanging in my race shop. Have to show you guys sometime, but I look at that picture almost every day when I walk into my shop. It's hanging there in a huge frame, so that was pretty cool. That's kind of just motivation all these years. Knowing that you could step into a car and follow your dreams and do what you want, and here I am, 14, 15 years later, still pursuing that.
And that is awesome. And just to piggyback Corey's question, you're doing all this while going to school, where I'm sure in Middletown, I've been working there for a year now. I know the school system. There has to be teachers, guidance counselors, family friends that say, Joey, it's nice that you do the racing bit, but maybe you should think about something that's more stable that you can go into, like welding or this or that you're gonna have better success at. I'm not saying you thumbed your nose and said, well, F you, I'm doing it my way, but I'm sure there had to be detractors along the way.
Yeah, I went to Xavier right here in Middletown. I graduated in 2016, so 3 years ago now. Hard to believe, but
Don't talk to me about hard to believe graduating high school. I graduated when there was black and white TV. I'm kidding, but it's kind of close.
right.
sir.
So I graduated about 3 years ago, and my teachers throughout Xavier love to hear the racing stories from the time I walked in as a freshman to the day I graduated as a senior.
Awesome.
There were days I had to leave school early, or not show up to school at all because of racing events. The opener at Waterford and the finale, consisted of a 3-day weekend: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So usually I would get that Friday off, and the teachers would they'd understand it, and they say good luck, and they would always ask me my results coming in on Monday. But I remember saying goodbye to a lot of the teachers on graduation day and saying best of luck in your future for racing, because they know how dedicated I was. But they were always interested in it. They thought it was really cool, and I still go back every once in a while and tell them, give them an update on my racing career, and it's just really cool that to have people, especially my teachers, that care so much for something I've done all my life.
Now that is awesome.
Yeah, it really
I
is.
can't say enough good things about hearing that.
Yeah.
So you may not know this, and I'm not blowing him up, but you know what? I'm going to blow him up a little bit. Our man Corey does K1 kart racing around the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, I've joked with him, my partner on the Loki Brony show, Mike, has joked with him, and now I'm kind of going to put you both on blast. Can we get a match race between K1 Corey Huffnagel, nicknamed Rowdy Burns, and Joey Ternullo, Connecticut racing awesome icon?
I think that's a plan.
I love it. Corey, what do you say?
I like that idea a lot.
What are your chances, Corey?
If I was a betting man right now, I would probably say my odds would have to be maybe 10-1. I'd say 10-1 or 12-1.
Okay, here's what we can do. If I can get Mike to show up on time for anything, we'll put all four of us out there and let the best and oldest man win. And you know who that is. Father Time over here.
Yeah.
That's what I say. I'm putting my money on me because I will spin my mother to win a race, and that's no BS. But Joey, I know you've raced all around this area: Thompson, Stafford, Waterford. I know you said you did some stuff up in Seekonk. Where's your favorite place to race been?
I'm gonna have to go with the homeland, the Waterford Speedbowl, definitely. That's the place I've raced at. Been racing there since 2010, so this will be my 9th, 10th season there coming up. A lot of wins there. Stafford has always been good to me too. I like Stafford a lot, but there's nothing you feel more at home than at Waterford, a place where you won so many times.
Absolutely, and nobody knows, other than you perhaps, more about local drivers than Corey Huffnagel. And Corey, chances are he's raced against some of the people that we've talked about, the Ryan Priestes and the Kaz Grallas.
Yeah.
Throw something out there. Let's give Joey a little challenge. What are you thinking right now insofar as local racers, and now we have Joey Ternullo?
So pretty much question-wise, or
sure, absolutely.
Okay. So, all right. So here's one little question for you. So what year did you first start watching NASCAR, and who was your favorite driver growing up?
Kevin Harvick. Next question. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just playing. Go ahead.
I would say, as early as I can remember, I started racing in 2006. So I want to say probably around that time, because I started racing when I was 7 years old. So probably, my dad grew up watching it as long as he can remember, and when I was born, I was probably watching it too. Up until 6, 7 years old. But my favorite driver was actually Elliott Sadler growing up.
Okay.
The 38 M&M car. I think
like that.
of being a kid and seeing M&Ms on the car. I thought that was pretty cool. I remember being in Disney World one time and having one of those booths where a guy would paint and stuff. And I told him I raced, and I asked him to draw me a picture of me driving the 38 car, and he did, and I still have it somewhere. So that was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Like the Jeff Gordon, the Tony Stewarts. And now you got to love Logano representing Middletown.
It's nice. So actually, it's funny because my favorite driver growing up was actually Tony Stewart, and And actually, the first time I started watching racing was back in 2005, and actually that was the year when I first got in. Like I was seeing guys like Jeff Gordon and Rusty Wallace and Harvick and Junior. Those guys were still racing until they retired a couple of years ago and everything and so forth. So when you guys mentioned about the 2011 Daytona 500, I have a really interesting story on this one. So,
when you're done, I have a story about the 2008 Daytona 500. Go ahead.
All right, so 2008, I actually went there, by the way. So 2011. So me and my family, we were down in the Bahamas for vacation. So this was a little bit of a family vacation, whatever. So that Sunday when we were down there, we were at some bar, whatever it is, like right near the beach. And guess what they were showing was none other than the Daytona 500. There were a couple of race fans that were there watching it that day, and there was one guy that didn't like Kyle Busch and whatever and so forth. So he really wanted to see him like hit the wall or something like that. And yeah, I remember I was down there when I was watching the race and when I was watching, Trevor Bayne won the race and so forth.
I don't know if I'm more proud of you for watching that Daytona in a bar at such a young age, or if I'm appalled that your parents had you in a bar watching that race. Look, hey, I'm going to be honest here. I'm a little verklempt. I might call Massachusetts DCF right now and have Mom and Daddy Huffnagel taken to jail right about now.
You're going to start them young, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you mentioned the 2008 Daytona 500 that you were there. I was not. I was there the next year, which is a whole nother ball of wax. But my daughter, Emma, who's about to turn 11 on February 15th, obviously was born on February 15th, 2008. 2 days later was the Daytona 500. She has just gotten home. She is no more than 12 hours home. I've got her in a little carrier. She's sitting next to me on the big chair. I draped her in a little Kevin Harvick t-shirt. She had her little hospital beanie on. I took a Sharpie and wrote a 29 on it. And as you can see behind me, the year before, Kevin Harvick wins Daytona. I thought, this is great. I could have Emma be my good luck charm. That only works in hockey. Trust me, Emma is only a good luck charm in hockey. But there she is, and that is going to be, the Daytona 500 is on the 17th this year. That's 11 years to the day that she watched her first race. And when I say watched, I'm sure it was like fuzzy images and sleeping most of the time. But if I can find that picture, I will share it with you guys. The next year I go to Daytona. I moved to Florida about 7 months after Emma was born. Went to the 2009 Daytona 500. Matt Kenseth and Kevin Harvick battling for the lead. I get up during a caution to go to the bathroom. And me and the Kenseth guy right next to each other. You know how you do. Guys are guys. Like, how are you? How are you? Good race. Yeah, it is. Your guy, my guy. Yes, absolutely. And we hear fireworks. We're in the bathroom. And he looked at me and I looked at him and he said to me, did they just call the effing race? I says, I don't know. Shake it off. Let's go. So we ran up like we were best friends for life. Up to the, we were in the back stretch. So we run up to the fence and there's the fireworks. He looks at me and goes, dude, you got robbed. I'm like, yeah, I did. Because he was coming to get you. And we shook hands and whatever. And I was angry all the way home because they called it for the threat of rain.
Yeah.
And Daytona is an hour from where I lived in Ocala, Florida. Not a drop came down.
This was 08 or 09?
09, sir.
09.
I was hot. 2 hours it took for the rain to come. They could have got that race in. Anyway, Joey, you're a race fan all your life. You're doing it now. You're living your dream. What are some of your best racing memories? Not only watching it on television, but your own personal race memories.
Definitely winning my first legend car race. Being a freshman in high school. Being new to high school, that was kind of a cool story to tell on Monday morning to kids that I didn't really know, and some of my teachers. That kind of got me some popularization, if you will, around the school. Did a lot of interviews after that. My sponsor loved it. Winning the championship was also a cool one. Making my championship speech, doing burnouts, stuff like that. You really feel it.
Nice.
Yeah, that was cool. And just anytime you strap in a new car, strapping in the SK Modified last year for the first time, that was like 2006 all over again. Starting something new and getting ready to go forward. And once I finished with the legend cars, I was kind of the top tier of the competitors, and now I'm all the way back down at the bottom being a rookie again. So kind of the cycle here. So we'll see what happens, and I'm very confident and looking forward to this year.
And the best part is, you're still young, 20 years old. Sorry, I screwed up your age earlier. It's around this time that the Joey Logano's and the Trevor Baynes and everybody is starting to get noticed by Truck Series, Xfinity Series, Monster Energy, NASCAR Cup Series. Do you do you think about that, or do you just, I'm going to do the best I can with what I have right here?
I think it's a little bit of both, Chris. I think I want to concentrate on what I'm racing this year and see where I can go. But then it's always good to look at what's going on around me and see people adapt and go out of their way and follow in their footsteps. I'm sure you're very familiar with Ryan Preece, who is
Absolutely.
a
Yeah.
graduate of Xavier as well. So that's pretty cool, and he'll be driving the 47 full time this year in the Cup Series. I think they just unveiled that car yesterday or the day before at the Hall
Ooh,
of Fame.
haven't seen it yet.
Go on Twitter, Facebook. Looks pretty nice. The paint scheme. So that's pretty cool. Everyone's proud of him around the Middletown area. He's from Berlin, so and he was a home track guy. Raced Waterford, Thompson, Stafford. He raced him a couple times this year. Got a couple wins, I think, at Thompson. But then again, he's just a hometown guy that made his dream come true, and everyone's pretty proud of him. And he's definitely one of the top guys, and looking forward to watch him this year.
Mm.
Corey is a big fan of guys like Ryan Preece and Kaz Gralla, as am I, because over the years you work too much, you have kids, you don't get to see the lower series, and I don't say lower in a bad way. I say, my Sunday belongs to NASCAR when it's not football season. But since we started this show, Corey is the guy that ingratiated me back into the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, and to see some of these local guys come up has been fantastic. Corey has a wealth of knowledge about these local drivers. And Corey, if you could, I'll ask you the question, and then maybe you can give your expertise, and then Joey can jump in. When you speak of a Ryan Preece or a Kaz Gralla, or even the dearly departed, God rest his soul, Teddy Christopher, and you see them move up, and you see them do well as a local guy, I'm sure that's an inspiration. But for you, the Preeces, the Kaz Grallas, you speak of them highly in the year and a half we've done this show. Give me a little insight into why you think so highly of them, other than them being local guys, and then we'll have Joey jump in at the end.
See, I think probably the reason for this is once you start doing good, like I'd say, like in the K&N series or in the modifieds, that's when the team owners they start looking at you, and then they say, like, we could use this guy for our race team, we could use him or whatever it is and so forth. I mean, I can look at Ryan Preece and I say to myself, he was one of the best when it comes to the modified series, and then I just remember 2 years ago when Joe Gibbs Racing picked him up, gave him, like, I don't know, maybe a minimal race schedule, what it is, and so ever. And then that year he ended up winning at Iowa, I believe his second start and so forth. And then last year he ended up driving part-time, and now this year he's driving full-time in the Cup Series with JTG Doherty Racing. Now let's remember, some of these guys that are moving up to the ranks, they don't get that opportunity, going up to Xfinity or in the Cup Series or in the Truck Series. I mean, you have to earn it, in order to get that top ride and everything and so forth. And actually, I was just looking up something on my NASCAR mobile app. So I guess Junior Motorsports and GMS Racing announced today, I guess they're going to have like some kind of like driver development program. And I guess from what I'm reading is I'm guessing Junior's late model program, some of these guys are probably going to get their opportunities in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series this year with GMS Racing. And then pretty much with Josh Wise, being like a driver coach and a physical fitness trainer and everything and so forth. Now, this is also another one that, I really like about this. And I really like, how Dale Jr., now is going to be bringing up a lot of these young guys up the ranks as well. And let's face it. I mean, back then, like I can remember in the Truck Series, it used to be, a veteran series. You had guys like Mike Skidder. You had, Mike Skidder. You had Top O'Nine. You had Hornaday, who's, I'd have to say, the best, Truck Series driver of all time anyway. And then, of course, sorry if I end up saying this, but Rick Crawford, he was one of those old timers as well. But
yeah, I get it.
But yeah, now we're already seeing a shift, of all these young guys that are coming in, and now the veteran guys are moving out. And now this is pretty much the point where, you start to question yourself, like, how many years do I have in racing? Now, the one example I want to go forward is a couple weeks ago, and this still pretty much questions me. So a couple weeks ago, GMS decides to release, well, either decides to release Johnny Sauter, or pretty much Johnny Sauter and GMS Racing decided to part ways in order to bring, Brett Moffitt to the 21 team. Now, I don't know if this was either a GMS decision, or I don't know if it was a Johnny Sauter decision, or I don't know if it was, something behind closed doors, like we don't even know what happened and everything and so forth. But I really think with all these young guys that are coming up, like, it just depends on, like, how you do it. Like, depends on, like, like what your talent's going to be like going into the trucks and Xfinity. Because just remember, when you're driving in the trucks and Xfinity, it's a whole lot longer than it is driving in the modifieds and the K&N series and everything and so forth. And when you're in any of those three series, now's the time where you have to step it up in order to make it the Cup.
Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Corey on a lot of those subjects. I forgot to mention that I raced against Kaz Gralla in the Bandoleros at Waterford for most of the season in 2010 and probably part-time in 2011 because he moved into the Legend cars. And I actually did run a couple Legend car races against him at Waterford as well. And I believe he did win a couple there. So I remember, seeing pictures of him in victory lane down at Waterford. Great kid, very respectable kid from what I can remember. Always raced me clean, and he won. I went to the Daytona 500 in 2017, where I watched Kurt Busch run and Kurt Busch win.
Yep.
And Gralla actually won the truck race. I forget if it was that year or last year.
It was actually 2017.
So it was 2017.
Yeah.
Yep. So I wasn't there that night. We only went for the 500 on Sunday, but I remember watching it on TV and that big, pile up on the backstretch. I believe it was Matt Crafton that went over.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big one. So, I believe Kaz was in like 7th or 8th place too when that wreck occurred, and then to come across the line first. That's amazing. And to look at him and, say I was racing Bandoleros with him 7 years ago at that time is crazy. But, it's nice to see, these guys climb up through the ranks. There's a lot of young talent out there. I was watching your guys' show from last week or a couple weeks ago talking about, Todd Gilliland and Harrison Burton.
Yep.
Christian Eckes is another kid, that I raced Legend cars against for a couple times up at Bethel Motor Speedway in New York, Legend stock. So I think he'll be in that 47 truck a couple times this year. I don't know if you guys saw the race at Gateway last year where he qualified second or third, I believe. He led a good portion of that race and was pretty fast, and then unfortunately ended up getting into a wreck and which ended his night. So that was pretty frustrating. But I think the young talent, these kids coming up from Legend cars, late models, super late models, K&N series, SK modifieds, working into the big leagues. I think it's really going to show and dominate this year, and we'll see if that holds out true come Homestead, come November of this year.
Absolutely. Does it give you a ray of hope seeing a lot of these local guys? And again, a lot of people sleep on the Northeast when it comes to racing, but when you see some of the guys that have come through these tracks, and whether it's Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York. I know Martin Truex Jr. did a lot of racing at Wall Stadium down in New Jersey for many, many years. And even I, back then, saw this I say this kid, he's probably 6-7 years younger than me at this point, but I'm just like, this kid's going to be something. And here we are, where, he's got a great new ride with JGR. He's the 2017 champion. Somebody's got feedback. Where am I? Oh, we should have told Joey to have headphones.
You got someone else clicking in?
No, it's just I'm getting a little feedback. That's okay.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right.
No worries.
First time this whole episode that it happened. It's like hearing myself think. Anyway, when you look at these guys coming up from the Northeast, does it give you a glimmer of hope that this could be you someday?
Yeah, I would like to think so. Everyone kind of starts out in the same spot. Everyone's a rookie at some point in their life, and whenever you decide to change into a different division, I believe you're a rookie all over again, and you got to put that stuff behind you. But at the same time, you got to remember that it's brought you to your new division. So anything's possible. I'm just going to keep working at it and see where the modifieds can bring me, and I'd like to travel. Like again, I said in the beginning of the show, get up to Stafford, get up to Thompson, just kind of make a name for myself in Connecticut even more.
Absolutely, and we look forward to coming out and seeing you run.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, once the schedule comes out, I think it's out already. Just got to write down the dates. We begin on May 11th. May 11th and 12th, I believe. It's a 70-lap race to start off the year, which is a pretty good distance.
Excellent. Corey, got anything else?
Yeah, a little audio feedback. But anyways, so I was just at two modified races last year. I was at C+J Raceway last June when Justin Bonsignor ended up winning the race, and then just last September I was up at New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the Musket 250, and so me and my girlfriend we stayed, I think, till like lap 200, whatever it is. So because we went to a concert in Manchester, but we ended up missing the finish when Bonsignor and Ryan Priest, they were running side by side, and then they tangled going into turn 3, and then I don't know if it was either Patrick Emmerling or I think it was somebody else that snuck through and won the race, and I ended up watching it on like Twitter somewhere, and I was like, I can't believe I missed that, But anytime the modifieds go up to New Hampshire, I mean, it's always excitement, and it's fantastic finishes like every year, and obviously, of course, it's pretty much the biggest racetrack, for those guys to race on, especially that I think they have like a small like restrictor plate, whatever it is. So it's mostly drafting like when you're going down the straightaways, whatever. But seeing those guys go down in the turns, just make like a slide job pass, it's just very it's exciting. It's very exciting, but then yet again, it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean that is an awesome track. I actually never been up there for a modified race. Still have to check that off my bucket list this year. But been up there for plenty of cup races. Never been to a July race up there. My family always went to the September race every year for as long as I can remember being in middle school. And it was still hot up there. I remember 85, 90-degree days, and it gets brutally hot up there. So I actually went to Darlington with my girlfriend back in September for Labor Day weekend.
Track. I love
that
it.
was
I've been
awesome race.
Been at Darlington half a dozen times. I was born in Goose Creek, South Carolina, so it's a part of my heritage.
Yep, and that was a little frustrating, for you, because they delayed that race about an hour and a half this year for rain. When rain and lightning, when there was, and we were looking in the sky, and they were a little dark, but nothing crazy. And we stayed in Mooresville, North Carolina that weekend, and drove down to Darlington Sunday morning. So we took, we went around to the NASCAR shops. We went to Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, Penske, all that, and pretty cool. Made a racing weekend out of it. So I'd like to travel to some tracks this year. A good buddy of mine, Doug Campbell, is Casey Kane's spotter on the 95 this year. So he's helping me out, and he's been helping me out, talking to me and stuff like that. And just a really cool kid. And I saw him at Darlington, and we went through the haulers and stuff like that. And I'm going to try to get to, I'd like to go to the Bristol night race. I was telling him.
Bucket List Jones, right there.
That's a good one.
One of my friends has been to the night race at Bristol, and I forget what he told me, but he said, anytime you go to the night race at Bristol, it makes you smile, and it's just like, it's pretty much something else. But that's another one on my bucket list that I got to do too.
Same here, and maybe we could make it like a three-headed monster because my night races are limited to Charlotte and Richmond. And Richmond was fantastic, but man, having watched Bristol over the last 848 years that I've been alive, Bristol night race is the bucket list. It's like the be-all, end-all of
Right.
my racing fandom. You go to the Coliseum, the last great Coliseum, and see these guys hauling around 16 seconds around the track. That bull ring is so amazing. If you can win there, you can win anywhere.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. And I believe I'd love to get to Talladega as well.
Me too.
Eventually, yes. Joey, we had some questions a week or two ago that we answered, but I'm going to ask you these questions now. Early favorite to win Daytona?
I'm going to have to go with Chase Elliott.
Okay.
It's not bad.
I think he was pretty. I don't remember what he finished there last year, but he qualified on the pole in 2017, I believe, where he was on the front row, which I got to view firsthand because I was at that race, and he's just a dominant factor. And the Chevys run pretty good at Daytona. Obviously Austin Dillon won it last year on the final lap. So I think Chase Elliott came off, like you said in the beginning of this show, kind of had a mediocre end to his chase, but did knock off a couple big wins. He got Dover last year and Kansas, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he is the early favorite to win Daytona and continue that hot streak he had at the end of last year and try to get back to it at the end of this year and make that championship 4.
Okay, if you had to pick, and obviously I'm going to write Elliott down first because you just kind of said that. If you had to pick your early championship 4 before one lap is run, who is your championship 4?
Going to have to go with Chase Elliott, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Logano with a chance to repeat.
Okay.
The guy on your head.
I love it.
And the last one is kind of a toss-up between Kyle Busch, who, he's there every year. He's good. And I do like Eric Almirola's chances. I think he had a great year last year in that 10 car, and I think he's going to carry it over to this year. And wouldn't shock me if he gets up front in Daytona again and almost wins it like last year.
I understand that, but you got a gun to your head right now. It's either Almirola or Busch.
If I was putting money on it, we would have to go Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
All right, I'm putting it down. KB right here. KB18. If you had to, again, we haven't run one single lap in the 2019 series. Who do you see raising the hardware at the Homestead Miami Speedway in November?
Well, like I said, it's hard to repeat, especially in this format. Mm-hmm. So that kind of wipes out Logano being my most accurate decision. Kyle Busch finished 4th in the championship 4 last year, which is, you would think 4th is not that bad, but in the championship 4, that's kind of the worst. You're all the way at the bottom. So, if I had to choose, I would take Kyle Busch to be your 2019 champion.
All right, he goes with KB18, and I think you've already covered this question, but we asked it anyway. After a fantastic 2018 season by young upstart standards, Chase Elliott, championship contender or rookie pretender?
Definitely, I think championship contender. I think he got past his rookie stage. Made a couple rookie mistakes last year, and stuff like that. But he showed up when it counted last year. Dover and Kansas are big races to win. Those are tough tracks, tough to be fast at. Tough on tires. And I think he's going to continue that hot streak right into Daytona in a couple weeks.
Fantastic. Corey, do you have anything else that you would like to ask Senor Joey before we pimp, plug, and otherwise push?
All right, so here's my little question. I've been kind of thinking about this one. So Kyle Busch is on the verge of getting 200 wins.
Boom.
Yes or no? Yes or no? Does he get to 200 this year?
What's he at right now?
So right now, he has 51 wins in the Truck Series and the Cup Series. Xfinity, he's up to 92. So total, he has 194 career wins in all three series. So that means he would have to win 6 races this year. It'd probably be in any series, whatever, to tie the record. So, yes or no, he ties the record.
I think he beats the record. I think he beats
Oh,
the record.
that's too easy, and that's kind of a softball question. I'll throw out maybe a little harder one. If he breaks that record, does we all look at Richard Petty as the king? Does that make Kyle Busch the new king?
No, I would not put
Thank
that.
you, Joey
Not
Ternullo.
put
You're my
that
favorite race car driver ever.
not in the same category.
Let me just take this hat off right now. Get me some new swag. Get me some Joey Ternullo gear. I will wear it proudly. But Corey and I have gone back and forth on this, and it's not that Corey's wrong or I'm right or I'm wrong and Corey's right. It just seems that, I don't disparage Kyle Busch for going on the different series and doing his thing. I do have a problem. I'm sure our listeners are tired of hearing it. Right now, they're just going, oh, he's going to say it again. If you win the championship on the highest level, I don't think you should go to the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series and take away the young guys' moment.
I agree.
Or much like Corey said, the Truck Series became sort of a Legends division back in the day. Don't take away these guys' last few moments of glory when you're Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Jr., whoever, and go and steal this win. We talked extensively about Kevin Harvick turning. Corey, help me. Darlington Xfinity race. Who'd he turn?
Ross Chastain.
Thank you.
Was that
It was this past year. That was
last
Chastain's
September.
moment. Yeah, that was Chastain's moment.
Yep.
There was no reason for 2014 Cup Series champion to be in that race. If you've won the championship, step away. Brad Keselowski, same thing. Now, Joey Logano, who does very limited Xfinity dates, same thing. Once you've won the big one, you have no business being on the little ones. You're taking away from young guys like you, like Gralla, like Priest. That bothers me.
Yeah. And I think, obviously Kyle Busch owns a truck team.
Yep.
I give him a little credit, when he steps into a truck, because obviously he's way more experienced than his drivers in the truck series. So I think, when he gets into a truck, people look at, let the kids have their fame. But at the same time, I think he's trying to better himself being in a truck and better his team, knowing what his equipment is and what his team can work on to, bring KBM up to par.
Sure, and I certainly don't doubt that. But the problem I have is Kyle Busch could put anybody into that seat
Exactly.
and have a successful race team.
Yep.
I just don't know how much I buy. Hey, look, Kyle Busch wins the. All right, Corey, I've been practicing. Gander Outdoor Truck Series Championship.
Yes.
Or he won this week's Gander Outdoor Truck Series race when the second place guy, if Kyle Busch is not there, could have won that race. The converse to that is if Kyle Busch runs that race and doesn't win, the guy who does win it, or the girl, I know Jennifer Jo Cobb still does the truck racing, if you can beat the best, your stock goes up that much more. Nobody, huh? You guys
I do agree.
You're not the best color man in the business for nothing, Corey.
Yeah.
So,
But,
Joey, okay, what you were gonna say? Something,
all right,
sir?
so I have one last question, and this one's probably gonna be a good one. So, thoughts on the new aero package for the Cup Series this year? Are we going to see close racing, or are we still going to see the same racing?
I think we'll still see the same racing at Daytona. Obviously they haven't allowed bump drafting that much in the past year. Can't really allow bumpers. But I do remember the All-Star race, I think, at Charlotte. They put restrictor plates in, and that was some pretty cool racing. And I think that, if I had to vote on it, I would want NASCAR to do that a lot more at, the mile and a halves and, the bigger tracks. I think Michigan would be a cool place to test that out because Michigan is probably, in my opinion, one of the boringest and worst tracks on the circuit.
Oh,
unless
you're killing me right now.
Yeah.
unless you have a green-white checker, which they can dive bomb under the white line and stuff like that. But I
right,
think
you
Pocono also
You saved your. Oh no, Pocono! No.
to try some restrictor plates out at that track because of how spread out they go. But other than that, I think Daytona will be its typical racing and last man standing on the last turn.
See, I do agree on that, and I do remember last year for the All Star race, they did have that package, which everyone called it, the All Star package. And
Yep.
to my honesty, I thought the racing was great too. I thought there was a lot of side by side, a lot of close racing, and everything and so forth. And then, of course, we did have the package. I think for the Xfinity Series at Pocono, which of course that failed miserably. Then they go to Michigan, I think, the next week, and it was pretty much so. But I thought, the package for the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series, I thought it was good too. But I would have to say, if I was NASCAR, I would have to come up with a package, that could bring the racing a lot close together, and no more, drivers leading by 8 seconds, whatever it is, and so forth. And of course, everyone, was saying oh, I don't want a Daytona and Talladega for every race, whatever. It's not going to be like that. I mean, I want to see a lot of close racing, not just at the super speedway tracks, but I want to see it at the 2 miles, the mile and a halves, because that's the only the most improvement that NASCAR needs to work on. And I think with this package this year, I'm really interested to see how it does. And if NASCAR hits a home run with this, just like how they did with the playoffs and then everything else and so forth, this could be, pretty much the package, for next year and beyond.
Right, I agree 100%.
Okay, so Joey, being our guest, do you have anything you want to pimp, plug, or otherwise push upon to the listenership?
I think I think we hit on pretty much everything that I could give my opinion on. I'm glad you brought up the Daytona 500. I'm glad you brought up the the Championship 4, because that's kind of the backbone of this year's race season. If you but the glory of it is, if you start poorly, like a couple guys do at Daytona, you have a pretty good time right down the line to get yourself into that round of 16. It's kind of a win and in situation. So this format is made for to kind of be a straggler in the beginning. So you can get stronger towards that end where the cutoff date is, where the playoffs. You're going to be in good shape.
Okay, great. Now, Corey, pimp, plug, and push, and I will do the same when it's over.
All right, folks. So keep following us on the C+J Speedway Review. Twitter, we are at CJ_Speedway. Instagram, we are at CJ Speedway. And then, of course, follow us on Facebook and then YouTube. So YouTube, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, then you'll get notifications, everything else, and so forth. So like I said, the Daytona's counting down for me, and after the Super Bowl, the Daytona 500 countdown is going to be on from there. And I know I do a lot for NASCAR IndyCar Central, posting up results and everything else and so forth. So unfortunately, I'm probably only going to do it on Facebook for now because right now I'm going to be advertising my Rowdy Burns social media sites. So Facebook, you can contact me at Rowdy Burns K1 Racer. Twitter, I am at Rowdy51K1 Racer. Snapchat, I am on Rowdy51K1 Racer 1. And Instagram, I am at Rowdy Burns 51K1 Racer. So same as Facebook and Instagram, everything else and so forth. So March 9th, I'm going to be at Apex Entertainment Center in Marlboro for our little go-karting event, and it should be fun. And I know I was over there last June testing, and from what I know, these karts, they're decent, but it's pretty exciting. But I can't wait, and I'm hoping to hit tracks at K1 and NH1 Motorplex, and then also, rumor has it I might be going to some of the go-kart places around the Berkshires, so I've been doing some research in the last couple of weeks. And not to mention, I will also be down at Foxwoods the weekend on my birthday, racing at the Monza Indoor Karting. So I'm really excited, and I can't wait to do some racing.
And once we can figure out how to get the four-headed monster together, Corey, Chris, Mike, and Joey Ternullo, match Race Jones. We're going to make it happen. You can follow me on Twitter at cburns19. Please, if you haven't done so already, follow everything that Corey said, all of our social media. Don't forget the Loki and Jabroni Show, the flagship of the Focus Digital Network, recording every week, live streaming on Tuesday nights. This week was a Wednesday because, well, scheduling conflicts happen when you're adults, parents, etc., so forth. But it's usually Tuesday nights every single week. Don't forget, next week we will start recording the newest and latest member show of the Focus Digital Network, which is called My Journey with Music. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this, I can't even speak. Basically, what you're going to do is you have a road trip, I'm going to provide the soundtrack. Whether you like rock, country, funk, rap, whatever it is, banjo music. I have music that bounces around in my head that I've loved for years. And I'm old, so I have a lot of musical background, and we're going to play it all for you. We're going to take, at certain times, requests. We're going to have shows that are focused on, say, the fierce females of music, or maybe my favorite 16 songs, or what have you. Tune in. That's going to be great. It's not YouTube. It's going to be audio only. So please tune into that. Don't forget, find and follow Joey Ternullo on any social media platform. And Joey, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Ternullo10, TERNULLO, for those who are new to meeting me. And same thing on Twitter at JTernullo10. Facebook, Ternullo Racing is my racing account, and then Joey Ternullo is my personal. So, follow me on there. Request me a bunch of pictures on there, information, links to my websites, and everything you need to know about me and my racing career.
I want to give one special shout out before we go to the unofficial mayor of Middletown, Miss Lindsay Freilich, for putting me in contact with this fantastic young man. I'm so glad we had this time to talk. There's one thing I want to bring up before we go, and I know it's not racing related, but I noticed that when you came and saw me recently, you had a Packers hat on.
Yes, I did.
Which means you're a football fan.
Very.
Oh, here, see, Corey's already hiding under the desk. He's ready for this. Now, let's turn the clock back to Sunday, to the NFC Championship game.
Oh boy!
Stop it, Corey, because I did this with you with your Alabama, and I was nice to you. I'm not going to be nice now. Did the pass interference call cost the Saints the game, or did the Saints cost the Saints the game?
Well, if you're a Saints fan, it cost them the game. If you're a Rams fan, they had plenty of chances. But I believe that the Saints had plenty of opportunities to close that game. They they led 13-0. Mm-hmm. But then again, how blatant that missed call was is very understandable for me to say that, yes, it did cost them the game, because that would have made it 1st and goal, and they would have just ran out the clock or punched it in and won the game. But I believe, it's very frustrating to see Drew Brees and the Saints not get to another Super Bowl. Last year, the
garbage
with Stephon Diggs, and then this year, very tough being a Saints fan right now.
Garbage. I'm a Falcons fan. Anytime the Saints lose, it's good by me. Putting you on the spot, gun to your head. Pats, Rams. Week from this Sunday. Who do you got?
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go with the Patriots. Last year, I went with the Eagles. I think the Eagles were, a more conformed team. Great defense, great offense. Had a lot of trust in Nick Foles last year, but I just think the Rams are way too young to get it done. I don't have that much faith in Jared Goff. Not a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of Sean McVay, but if you want to beat Belichick, being only 30 years old, 33 years old, I think today's his birthday. So, and I read if if he were to win the Super Bowl, it'd be the youngest coach in NFL history, and if Belichick wins it, it'll be the oldest coach in NFL history. So history's on the line for both coaches. But this is the third year in a row the Patriots are in the Super Bowl, and I think they would like to win 2 out of 3 and not go 1 for 2.
Exactly. Corey, gun to your head. I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Corey, Pats, Rams.
Anybody but the Rams, but I'm just going to say, Patriots take home the Super Bowl 34-10.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to give my pick, and it's going to be I'm going to qualify it. One of our old guests on the Loki and Jabroni show was Joe Laurinaitis, Road Warrior Animal from WWE, WCW fame. His son was my favorite college football player, James Laurinaitis. Played for Ohio State, went on to play for the Rams, and unfortunately played 1 year with the Saints. That wasn't his fault. His contract ran up. He took a year, whatever. I want the Rams to win. Trust me when I say this. I want the Rams to win. They're a young team. They're a great team. They have a lot of upside. But you don't bet against the GOAT and the genius.
Yeah.
I want the Rams to win, but my pick for the Super Bowl is going to be the New England Patriots. So,
Agreed.
Joey, stay on the line. But as we close out, we'll talk to you when the feed goes dark. And guys, thank you again for joining us. Joey Ternullo, thank you again. You're such a great guest. We want some free swag. We want T-shirts, hats, bumper stickers, whatever you got. I'm kidding, but not really.
No, I'll talk to my sign guy and shirt guy, and we'll get some stuff made.
Corey wears the kids extra small. I wear an extra large, and Eddie just wants a bumper sticker.
Well, I'm not that small.
I know, I'm kidding. But producer Eddie Focus just thinks it's a bunch of idiots going fast and turning left. But as much as I try to get him to watch the Roval, Watkins Glen, and Sonoma, he fails to do so. But he is the best producer money can buy, so we keep him along.
Perfect.
All right, good. Guys, thank you so much. Corey, with the most famous words in podcast history. Tell him
Good
what
night.
you can do. Thank you.